All right, part two, creating a slideshow that better engages your audience. So first off, I'm on the schedule for part four, or step four, and I'm going to introduce some resources that I have in the schedule. And this will help explain my process for creating a more effective slideshow in a timely manner. As we never have enough time to build something that we can be fully proud of, so how can we be more efficient with the time we have to make something that's simple and elegant? So I click on this link here, and what I have is a video presentation that's 12 minutes long of how I work at the high school to help kids create better presentations. And it could be at any level, it doesn't have to be high school level, but it goes through step by step what I do. First off, I grab a sheet of paper and I brainstorm out. I put in the middle, in the center here, what the main idea is. And the idea to remember with this is that we lose focus within 60 seconds if we don't have a visual cue, is something I read in research. And so by simply writing a circle in the middle of a piece of paper or on a whiteboard to keep us focused on what the point is, it helps us always bring the supporting material back to that key thing. So for instance, for you it would be, how do you use technology? Maybe that's your statement you put in the middle. The next thing you do is, after you brainstorm some ideas, flip the paper over or get a different sheet of paper and switch to the left brain. The idea here is, with right brain, you're brainstorming ideas, you're just throwing them down. What would help reinforce the key thing in the middle here? Here, you organize them into slides. And what I do is I grab a regular size sheet of paper and fold it 4 times. And what you get are 16 little rectangles that can represent slides. And so you have 16 on one side, you flip it over, you have another 16 if you're using a separate sheet of paper. And what's really fun is you can then look at this and start to organize it here. So you go from left or right brain, which is the brainstorming, to left brain organization. I find this process on paper to be very effective. It's very quick and really helps me get to the gist of what I'm trying to do. And I don't know about you, but making presentations can be really stressful, and I have a hard time getting started. So this process, because it's low tech with paper, very easy to get started. I use this with my students. In fact, in the classroom, they don't get to touch a computer until they have pitched their idea on paper. I can then listen to their idea, see how they're organizing their thoughts, the content, do they actually know what they're talking about. All the important stuff for education I can see without them touching a computer, and it's very effective. Then once they've proven that they have a good idea and it's well developed, then they can sit down and start building the slideshow with the technology. The next step I do is I actually type out 1 line per slide, 1 line here representing a slide in Word. Why? Because when I get into PowerPoint, I tend to get distracted by clicking all the buttons and trying to figure out where the colors are and whatnot. So I just kind of keep myself focused by, again, each line would represent a slide. So the words you see here, a phrase, would be what ends up on the slide. Down here on step 4, this is actually in the outline view in PowerPoint. And when you're in PowerPoint, what it looks like is this. So check this out. Over here, if I type my name and hit enter or return, it automatically puts me on a new slide. And I can then type the next thing I want to put on the slide, and hit enter, and it's building the slideshow automatically for me. So this is a really effective way to build the structure once you know what you want on each individual slide. And if it's going to be pictures, you can see here in this text, I just put the text on there, a picture of whatever picture I need to harvest from the internet. So that's my strategy, is as I'm brainstorming and coming up with ideas and then putting them into order, I'll write down that there's going to be a picture on that slide, not text. And then that gives me an idea how many pictures I need to go find when I get to this stage. Then we go into the master slide, which I'm going to show you in a moment. The master slide controls the look and feel of the whole presentation from one place. And I do this first to set the color scheme and the layout, and we're going to do that in a moment. And the final steps here you don't have to worry about. I use something called Voicethread, and it's a really neat way. It's free. You can use up to 3 voice threads for free, and you can upload your slideshow and then narrate over the slideshow and then embed that whole experience into any web page. So people could not only click on your slides, but they hear you narrating the slides. It's really powerful. So if you haven't exposed yourself to Voicethread, go to voicethread.com. They love educators. It's predominantly what they do. But it's a great way for you or for students to upload slideshows, then comment on them verbally, and so people can watch the slideshow and hear the narration from the student. It's an amazing experience. I could spend a whole class just teaching about Voicethread and how powerful it is in education. There's your little ad for it. Go check it out if you're interested. It's incredible. But back to our point. We're creating a slideshow that's simple, elegant, and gets the point across very quickly. This video again explains everything I'm going into detail now with, but a little bit more. So feel free to look at that. Again, that link was right, let's see, where was I? Here. I'm going to refresh this page because it looks a little bit like something had happened where it was out of date. Okay, let's go back down to where we were. That link right there we just looked at. Okay, it's right here. The master slide, I have a tutorial right here that goes through it, but you're watching this right now, so let me just show you right now. Now I'm on a Mac, and so it's going to be a slightly different view. Actually not slightly in some, and if you're on a PC, and depending which version you have, if you Google, or actually go to YouTube, might be a faster way, master slide for your version of Word, or not Word, but of PowerPoint, or if you're using a different system, like open source software, there are tutorials out there that will show you how to get to the master slide in any software program. Whether if you're on a Mac and you're using their version, which is Keynote, Open Office has their version of it. They all work and they all have master slides, so you can use any one of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to 0 here, and I'm going to show you what the master slide looks like. So under View, Master, Slide Master. Now on a PC, it's the same idea. You go to the View area and you're going to see the master slide option, usually across the top here. But this is the master slide, so I want to make sure it's selected. If it's not selected, like this one's now selected, I don't want that. I want the very top one. There are numerous master slides you can use, but we're just going to use the basic top one. And what this does is we are going to delete this main section, because what I'm going to show you is how to use just one line of text per slide. Slides are free. Use more slides, put less text on each slide. The simple idea behind this is that we only can focus on one thing at a time, whether it's visually or in an audio sense. And so when people are presenting and they have a bajillion bullet points up on a slide, the audience is busy reading ahead, not listening to the presenter. That is a problem. Not only is it a conundrum for the audience because they're conflicted, should they listen to the person or should they read the slides, but people are more visual, so they tend to read ahead regardless. And if the person presenting is doing the cardinal sin of actually reading your slides, people get really bored because they've already read ahead, they already get it. They're looking for new meaning for the presenter to create with the visuals that are in front of them on the slideshow. So, number one thing I can share with you is no bullets, one idea per slide. Don't read your slides. Have the text on the slide reinforce what you're saying in person. Now for our slideshow, because we're not going to be in person presenting it, I would just have the text, again, if you were going to have 6 bullet points on a slide, make 6 slides with one phrase per slide. And maybe the first slide before those 6 bullet points have the category. So, maybe a guided question like, what's the best way to engage kids? And then the next 6 slides are going to talk about what you use with technology to better engage kids. So that may be one strategy there. So once I put this in the middle here, I'm going to go look at my toolbox. Now toolbox on the Mac is the equivalent of when you go under formatting on the PC or the Mac. And what I'm going to do is the background, I want to turn black. And when I do this here, it automatically turns the font color white. And that's great because we want maximum contrast. So another thing I want to share with you is when in doubt, leave it out. So the really pretty slides with the formatted backgrounds and all the gorgeous artwork that comes in some of the slide templates, the problem with that material is it upstages or overrides your content. Basically, it looks better than your stuff does. And so I say get rid of the competition. And so I like to create a very simple, elegant black background, and here's why. Or maybe a slight gradient from gray to black, maybe like this. But I try to keep it as high contrast as possible between my font and the background. The rule in design is that dark colors tend to seem further away, and you don't get any darker than black, and highlights tend to appear closer. So what I want is my background to go away, in this case black, and I want my text to appear to be floating or closer to my face. And what's really nice is if you present with a black background on the wall, all it looks like is the text is floating on the wall. So the projection surface you are projecting to all that space around the projector and the screen you're projecting on becomes part of your slide. I don't know if that makes sense, but the idea is there's no edge. So it's almost like your slideshow is, transcends just the scope or the limitation of the projection area. It's pretty cool. So maybe give it a shot. The font you choose, I would choose something very simple and straightforward. Don't get too flowery. But then again, that may be what you want. But try to keep your font choice to 1 to 2 fonts maximum for the whole slideshow. Font change grabs the attention of the viewer, and they're going to wonder why the font changed. And if you don't have a reason, then don't do it. But pick a font that you like and stick with that throughout the slideshow. So, white font, black background, that's usually what I do, unless I'm inspired to do something else. I am going to use pictures, but the picture is just going to go in the slide, and all I'm going to say, because I'm actually not going to show you how to put pictures in the slideshow, because I presume you know how to do that, but fill the frame with the whole picture. And try not to have text over the picture. Just have the picture and then have text before the slide with the picture or after it. But the idea is we're just going to see the image. So you might use right brain, left brain to drive home a point. For instance, you might be talking about how do you engage kids. So maybe that question's on the slide. The next slide would have a picture of kids chaotic in a classroom. Then the following slide, you have an example of a tool you use. Then the next slide may be a picture of a classroom that's better organized because the kids are using that tool. You see how I'm flowing here? I'm creating a rhythm of text and image and text and image, and it's one idea at a time. But the idea that you state with text is reinforced with an image. And what happens is, because people are visual, they're going to see your idea in text, then see it in a vision through an image, and that's much more powerful. So that's it. That's really the ins and outs of my whole technique. And that's it. For the duration, like how many slides, I don't like to put a number on it, because some people go crazy with all the images and text and make 50, 60 slides. Other people will do something that's more economical and a half dozen or, well, dozen or 20 slides. So, but if you're only doing one phrase or one image per slide, all of a sudden having more slides is no big deal. So I'm going to open it up to you. If you have questions about that, please feel free to contact me. So I don't want you to be stressed out about the lack of structure or a lack of content, how many slides. Then I'm going to leave that up to you. But as long as you're paying homage to the interview that you had about how technology is used, and you can represent that in your presentation, I'm a happy camper. And I would like you to try some of these techniques, because I think you'll find it easier and a little less stressful than the typical slideshow and bullets and trying to get all the colors to coordinate and so on and so forth. Try scrubbing all that away and having a black background with white font, and keep it super simple. All right, all that, and I'm still in the master slide. So when I'm done with the master slide, I go back to View and Normal. So up at the top here, you couldn't see in the video, but I clicked on the View menu item, and I went to Normal, and it took me back to my normal slide. Now check this out. If I'm typing my name, Scott, and I'm a teacher, I'm going to go into presentation mode and watch what happens. I'm Scott, I'm a teacher, and that's the end of my slideshow. So some of the stuff you see here, like this box, there's sometimes this overlay of things that aren't actually there. You're not going to use them. And so sometimes in the template it keeps putting these on there. But if you're typing your stuff over in the outline view, it doesn't matter what's already in the slide. And if I, again, keep making my slides, I make one slide after another, and I can just keep adding them over here. If I'm going to do a picture, I tend to do this, where I'll type in picked of school, and then I know I'm going to go get a picture of my school and put it on that particular slide. But again, if I go back into presentation mode, my name is Scott, I'm a teacher, I work at City U, I work with technology, and here's the school I work at, and that's how I would present. Okay, now moving back to our schedule, I want you to publish your slideshow to slideshare.net, and I will have a separate supportive video for that. But if you go to slideshare.net and create an account, it has an upload button on the top of the screen, and you take your PowerPoint or any other program you use to make your slideshow, have that saved. It should be pretty straightforward for uploading the slideshow to it. And then once the slideshow is uploaded, you can create a link. Again, I will have a resource for you on how to do that very soon. I'll have it linked on this schedule. I have resources already developed. I just can't remember if I put them in here or not. So I will check that. Further down here, these two presentations, CPG Gray's coffee presentation and Dick Hart's Identity 2.0. I have them loaded up here, and I just want to show you just a few seconds of each.
Every day, the world consumes 300 tons of caffeine, enough for 1 cup of coffee for every man, woman, and child. The world's largest buyer of coffee, the U.S., has to import nearly all of this, as the coffee trees from which caffeine is harvested.
All right, you could watch the rest of it, but he's just using images, and if I fast forward to the end, his citations, let's go back here. His citations, where he gets his images from, these are the usernames from Flickr. Flickr.com is a great resource to get images from, but he's just citing the username at Flickr. That's a great way to do it. Notice he's not using APA or MLA formatting, just paying homage to where those came from. So what I strongly recommend is to use something called the Creative Commons, and if you go to search.creativecommons.org, this is how I gather images. And what it does, it allows me to search through image websites to find copyright-free images, and there's millions of them out there. So for instance, if I want a picture of a daisy, I would type the word daisy here, click on Flickr. You can do Google Images as well, but I prefer Flickr because I think it's a little easier. I click on this, and I wait. And let's say that I like this image of the daisy. What I need for proper citation is 4 things: the date, the website, the name of the image, and the username. So if I click on the picture, you can't quite see it, but right down here, this is the user. This is the creator of the image, so I would just need that information. So in review again, the date, the website, the username or the author, whatever is easiest to understand, and then the name of the picture. If it doesn't have a name, just give it a name. That's the 4 things we need for citation. So if we look back at CPG Gray's citations, what he's doing is, in his presentation, he'll say all images from Flickr on this date, and then he has the username. And so he's paying enough credit so that if anybody tries to find where those pictures came from, they could go to Flickr, search for this user, and they're going to see the image. Once they see the image, they'll know that he is paying homage to that. Now, because it's in the Creative Commons, what's really exciting about this, if you don't know about the Creative Commons, copyright means you can't have stuff without getting permission first. And everything published is copywritten. So we can't just go grab images willy-nilly. We have to actually get permission. But if you go to the Creative Commons, people who put their material in the Creative Commons have already given you permission as long as you cite them properly, like we just did. When I say properly, not MLA or APA necessarily, but just that you give them credit for the image. So those 4 things I just talked about would do that. So this is what I do, is I'll search for my material here, I'll search for Flickr, and then I'll download the images and save the information about each image I use. And then on the final slide, I will have a citation that simply says all images from Flickr on this date, or from this date range, from this date to that date, and then I'll have a list of the usernames. And what I like to do is the username and the picture. So the daisy from this user. So that's what I would do. Now, in review, what I'm kind of coming back to is the schedule here. By putting all these parts together and exploring these resources, I've covered most of this material down here. This is just more examples, some things to consider. Feel free to delve into these. I do presentation, I teach it quite a bit, and so I have a lot of material for you to look at, but you don't have to explore all this. I've already covered through this video what I want you to embrace. So try the black background, try the white font, try the master slide, try to keep it 1 idea per slide as you explain what you found out through your executive summary interview and experience. All right. When you're done with all of the material, then you can upload it to slideshare.net and then link that slideshow to your Google page for your ECU514 class. Again, I will have a resource for you, a link to you I'll either send to you via the Blackboard posts, or somehow I'll get it to you about SlideShare and how to upload there. I have a short tutorial video on how to do that if anybody has any questions. There you have it.